10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 191. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, and Happy New Year to you. It is now officially 2020, and thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of 2020. Hope you all had a great holiday season, a fantastic new year, and are ready to jump into the new year with some brand new stuff to work on. So first things first, I just want to thank everybody who supported us in 2019. 2019 was our best year yet. We keep welcoming new listeners to the show, new listeners to the Patreon platform, and it's just been a fantastic year. So I just really want to thank everybody out there for all you do for the show. The show would not exist without you. And thanks for contributing both discussion and your talents to the show and your listenership. It really means a lot to us. So this year, we're really excited to do some new things with the Patreon platform. We're going to be doing a lot more interviews this year, and we are also going to be sort of joining up our YouTube channel. And actually, the YouTube channel is just under my name, Nick Maynella, but I'm going to start putting out some sort of supplementary episodes, just short little topics, and we're going to roll those PDFs into the Patreon membership that we already have. So it'll still only be $3 a month, but now you're going to get even more content. There's also something else I'm working on that I will announce soon that I think is going to be of tremendous benefit for everybody out there, and that will be rolled into Patreon as well. So if you've been on the fence about joining up, contributing $3 a month, now is the time to do it because that membership is about to get a lot more valuable. Got to thank a couple of people for joining up this week. Thank you to David, Shamu, Ronald, and Becky for joining up. Thank you guys so much for becoming members, and we hope you enjoy your subscription over there. If you would like to join up for Patreon, get all the PDFs that we've ever done, along with these brand new things that we are planning for the show, just head over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, and you can get yourself signed up today and get instant access to all the things over there. All right, let's jump into the first episode of the year. So we are going to concentrate for the month of January on reading. Now, I know this is usually a podcast on improvisation and the topics that go along with that, but in order to be a complete musician, whether jazz musician or any other kind of musician, I think it's essential that our reading skills are up to snuff. So if you're somebody that doesn't read very well, maybe 2020 could be the year that you get your reading skills together. And this just makes you so much more marketable as a musician. Because think about it, no matter who you're playing with, unless you're playing your own completely original music or you have every jazz standard memorized, you're going to have to read. Like I play a lot of big band gigs, and there, reading is really what keeps getting me the calls for these gigs. The ability to take a whole bunch of charts and either sight read them or learn them in a really short period of time, make sure that I keep working and that I get to play with all these fantastic ensembles. So we're going to talk about reading and some of the skills that you need to have, some of the things that you can work on, and hopefully some of these worksheets are really going to go a long way towards getting your reading skills together. So what we're going to talk about today is enharmonics. And this is a really important topic because depending on what instrument we play, we tend to like sharps or flats better. And there's a very, very simple reason for that. So, for instance, I'm a saxophone player. I enjoy reading sharps much more than I enjoy reading flats. And it's a very, very simple reason. It is because I started on the alto saxophone. And of course, the first key that everybody plays in when they're a young musician is concert B flat. Concert B flat on the alto saxophone happens to be the key of G. So when I first started, I would learn to play in the key signature of just a single F sharp, and therefore my brain started to wrap around sharps before it started to wrap around flats. And still to this day, after all the work I've done, I still find it easier to read sharps than flats. Now let's take, for instance, a concert pitch instrument. So how about trombone? If you play a trombone, the first key signature you ever played in was 2 flats, B flat and E flat. So you're going to prefer flats. And I'm sure a lot of you out there know exactly what I mean. So a lot of saxophone players get paralyzed by flats. A lot of concert instrument people, flutes and trombones and instruments like that, they get paralyzed by sharps. So how do we fix this? Well, the answer is we simply have to go through the painful exercise of doing what we don't like. So for me, that would be playing in a bunch of flat key signatures and just really starting to wrap my brain around playing a whole bunch of uncomfortable flats for myself. And then my skills are going to automatically catch up on the flat side of things. So what I've done this week is I've done something very simple. I've come up with this little 8-measure melody for you. And I've put it into keys where there tends to be, depending on the composer or the arranger, a 50-50 shot whether you get a flat key or a sharp key. So I'm talking about the keys of F sharp major and how that parallels with the key of G flat major. They're the exact same key, but total opposite key signatures. And then I'm also going to use D flat major and C sharp major. Again, same key, but completely different key signatures. So what I've done is, again, I've written out this little 8-bar melody. I'd like to play it for you now so you can hear it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this little 8-bar melody, we're going to play it in F sharp, then we're also going to play it in G flat. It's going to sound exactly the same, all the same pitches, but different notes. And we'll talk about what I mean by that in a second here. And then I have the same melody written in the key of D flat major and again in C sharp major. This is really going to challenge you. What I'm guessing is, depending on what key you like better, you're going to do, like, let's say, a great job in the key of F sharp. And then when you go to play that same melody, but it's notated in the key of G flat, you're really going to struggle. Let me play the melody for you first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. All right, so a couple of things about that melody. First of all, I tried to make it short enough that it's not going to feel like an insurmountable task. Second of all, it's all diatonic, right? So it never leaves that major key. And third of all, it's very melodic, meaning that you play it a couple times, it's going to be stuck in your head for sure. And there's a really good reason for that. I want you to know if you're playing it correctly when you try to take it through these other keys and try to play them in their parallel enharmonic keys. All right, so let's talk about enharmonic notes a little bit. So something that I hear with a lot of my students is, let's say that one of my students sees a G flat and they go, oh yeah, G flat, I know what note that is. That's F sharp. And I have to stop them there, right? Because actually G flat is not F sharp. Now, stick with me here. Those two notes are the same pitch. They are enharmonic to each other, but they are not the same note. F sharp and G flat are different notes while they are the same pitch. Now, there's a very good reason that I want you to make this distinction, because if you are playing through something and it is going by pretty fast, you do not have time to do a conversion in your head from G flat to F sharp. That note is going to be gone before you do that, before you flip it in your brain to something that you prefer to think about. So when you're playing these exercises, I want you to focus on that. I want you to read the note that's in front of you without having to say, oh yeah, okay, a D flat is a C sharp. Don't do that. Make sure that you're looking at a D flat and it immediately registers to whatever note that is on your instrument. So in the case of a saxophone, it immediately registers to the fingering for a D flat, all right? Now, if you're somebody, and be honest with yourself, if you're somebody that does this conversion in your head, you got to stop. I want you to get out of the month of January in 2020 without doing that conversion anymore. It's going to be painful at first because that's just what you're used to doing, but I want you to completely go back on that. Do not do that anymore. These exercises are going to be extremely helpful for you when it comes to this exact problem. Because think about it, F sharp major has basically all the sharps. So then when you play it in G flat, you basically have all the flats, right? So you're not going to have any choice but to confront this problem if this is something that you do. Same thing with C sharp and D flat, right? C sharp truly has all the sharps and G flat has almost all of the flats. So you're going to have to do it again. So what I suggest is you play the exercise in F sharp, then you immediately go and play it in G flat, and don't do the conversions. It should sound exactly the same. Again, all of the pitches will be exactly the same, but you will be reading a completely different set of notes. There it is again, that difference between pitches and notes. So this is a fairly straightforward exercise that I want you to do this week, but it is very, very important when it comes to being the best reader you can possibly be. Now, a lot of you out there are probably getting to the point where you're playing gigs, or maybe you're playing gigs already, and I promise you that working on reading is going to be one of the most valuable things you're going to do this year. It's going to make you a much more marketable musician. If somebody calls you for a gig and they know you can read, they feel a lot better about having you there than if you're somebody that's a little bit shaky on your reading skills. We're going to cover a couple more reading skills this month, and then we're going to finish up with an etude that's all about combining this stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them for me in the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Community Facebook group. That's the best place to get in touch. If you want the PDFs, which I think a lot of you are going to want the PDFs for this, they're extremely valuable. Go over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, take you over, and get you that PDF. Instantly, you can download it and get to work on this stuff. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We will talk to you next Friday with a brand new episode, again on reading. Hope you're having a great year so far, and we'll talk to you soon, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.